Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to completely dismantle one of the biggest myths in modern healthcare, the idea of the average patient. We're going to see exactly why the future of medicine is actually an audience of one.
All right, let's get right into it with a number that might honestly make you look at your medicine cabinet a little differently. Brace yourself for this. Every single day, millions of people are taking medications that are literally doing absolutely nothing for them. When you look at the top 10 highest-grossing drugs in the US, we're talking the absolute blockbusters driving the pharma industry. They actually only help between 1 in 25 and 1 in 4 of the people who take them. Think about that. For every one person getting better, up to 24 people are swallowing a pill that's completely useless for their specific biology.
The sheer scale of this, what experts are calling imprecision medicine, is staggering. Take statins, right? They're routinely prescribed all over the world to lower cholesterol. But the data shows that maybe only 1 in 50 people taking them actually sees a real benefit. And it gets worse. Because classical clinical trials have historically leaned heavily on white Western participants, there are drugs out there that can actually be actively harmful to certain ethnic groups. We're basically casting this giant net, crossing our fingers we catch a few fish, and just totally ignoring the collateral damage.
So you gotta ask, why is this failure rate so unbelievably high? Well, it all boils down to how we test drugs in the first place. Classical clinical trials are built for this mythical average patient. They grab a handful of surface-level measurements from thousands of people, smooth out all the unique little quirks, and find a median. But here's the kicker. That average person, they don't exist, not in the real world. True precision medicine demands the exact opposite approach. Forget shallow data from a crowd. We need incredibly deep data from a single person. We have to dive into that highly complex web of genetics, environment, and lifestyle that dictates how you, and literally only you, respond to a treatment.
Now, to be fair, the medical community knows this is a problem. They haven't been completely ignoring it. They've tried patching up the system with these intermediate sort of band-aid steps. You might have heard of basket trials, where they match patients based on a genetic marker and completely ignore the type of disease. Or umbrella trials, testing a bunch of different drugs for one specific disease. There are even adaptive trials that try to pivot on the fly based on patient responses. But there's a frustrating catch here. Even matching specific genetic mutations often falls short. Why? Because human biology is wild. It's complex and it's constantly adapting. You might target one specific mutation, and your cells just figure out a workaround and become resistant anyway. These half-steps, they just aren't personalized enough.
Okay, so what's the actual fix? The only real solution here is a massive, radical shift in how we look at care. We have to move toward deep, continuous monitoring of the individual. Taking your blood pressure once a year and sending you home just doesn't cut it anymore. True personalized medicine means continuous feeds of data, tracking every possible metric of a single person. We need to see exactly how your specific body reacts to an intervention, checking your stats daily, over months, or even years.
And that brings us to the ultimate paradigm shift in medicine, the N of 1 trial. In statistics, N is just the number of subjects in your study, right? Well, in an N of 1 trial, N equals exactly 1, you. You are the absolute center of the entire formalized study. Now sure, doctors have always done a really casual version of this, like, try this pill, let's see how you feel in 2 weeks. But N of 1 trials take that and formalize it into rigorous hard science. With enough high-quality data over a long enough timeline, we can say with absolute mathematical certainty whether you are a responder or a non-responder to a specific treatment.
Let's break down how this actually works in practice, because it's pretty fascinating. It's not just a take this and call me in the morning situation. It's highly methodical. First, we get a continuous baseline of your normal health. Then, we introduce the first intervention, usually with strict blinding, so neither you nor your doctor knows if you're taking the real drug or a placebo. Then comes a totally crucial step, the washout period. We let the drug completely clear your system. Finally, you cross over to an alternate intervention. By cycling these treatments back and forth in your exact body, we prove statistically what actually works for you.
And the best part? We already know this works. It's happening in the real world right now. Down in Australia, they ran a super rigorous 3-year study with 132 osteoarthritis patients, using N of 1 trials to alternate their pain meds. And the results were awesome. They proved that, yeah, it takes a bit more effort up front, but it leads to way more effective prescriptions and actually saves healthcare costs in the long run. It's huge for rare diseases too, finding off-label uses for drugs like mexiletine to treat rare muscle conditions. Or look at the Tanner Project for ovarian cancer. Doctors usually only sound the alarm if a certain protein marker, CA125,
goes over 30. But what if your normal, everyday baseline is only 10? A jump to 25 is a massive red flag for your body, even if it looks average on paper. These N-of-1 trials figure out your personal baselines, which means we can catch things way earlier.
So you're probably thinking, if this is so great, why is this revolution only happening right now? Well, it's a perfect storm of three things. First, the absolute explosion in omics technology. We can map your DNA, your RNA, your metabolome, even the billions of microbes in your gut. It's incredible. Second, continuous monitoring isn't stuck in a hospital anymore. You've got an Apple Watch, a continuous glucose monitor. We have cheap, efficient consumer wearables tracking your vitals 24/7. And third, the culture is finally shifting. Patient advocacy groups are stepping up and demanding a front-row seat in how their treatments are vetted.
But we've got some major roadblocks. And as you might guess, it mostly comes down to economics. The pharmaceutical industry is just totally addicted to that blockbuster model we talked about. Their whole incentive structure is built on making drugs for millions of people, not individuals. Think about this. A single conventional phase 3 clinical trial can cost anywhere from $100 million to $700 million. With that much cash on the line, there is massive inertia. Big pharma and regulatory agencies are frankly terrified to move away from the classical trial model they've used for over 50 years.
And because that old, incredibly expensive system is so dug in, the heavy financial lifting for precision medicine is basically being dumped right onto the patients. It's a massive point of friction. For example, right now, some cancer care companies charge patients between $5,000 and $7,500 just to sequence their tumors to figure out the right treatment. Until governments and big institutions step up to change the financial incentives, cost is going to remain this huge, frustrating barrier for sick people who just want answers that actually work for their bodies.
But beyond the money and the data, what's truly profound here is the psychological shift. We are talking about totally fundamentally transforming the relationship between you and the medical establishment. Back in the day, joining a clinical trial basically meant acting as a guinea pig. You get a placebo or a drug that makes you sick, all in the hopes of maybe helping future generations. The N-of-1 future flips that script entirely. In a one-person trial, the treatments are being vetted specifically for you. You aren't the guinea pig. You are the direct, immediate beneficiary of your own personalized clinical data.
And this is exactly where the experts see things heading. Nicholas J. Shork, a huge voice in precision medicine, hit the nail on the head. He says the key is going to be transforming our everyday clinical care into solid N-of-1 trials. We don't need giant billion-dollar research facilities for every single patient. We just need to seamlessly weave this rigorous, continuous data collection right into the routine doctor visits you're already having. That is exactly how we take precision medicine and scale it for the real world.
So the writing is on the wall. The era of generic, one-size-fits-all medicine, where you're just crossing your fingers and hoping you're the lucky 1 in 25, that era is coming to an end. We've got the wearables, the molecular mapping, and the rock-solid math to treat you like the highly unique biological ecosystem that you are. As we finally leave the myth of the average patient behind, the only question left to ask yourself is, are you ready to be a study of one? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and remember to always question the average.